problem, so you want to make sure that you're paying attention. I know because I have a chart like this, we're going to talk about a scatter plot. So just to imagine that, you're going to have a whole bunch of random dots based on the data points. You might have an outlier or a couple, but you're going to find a line of best fit, and it's going to ask you questions about how these points kind of relate to the line, and etc. So you're going to begin with the table. So I kind of did this on my own. You're going to begin by hitting stat, which will bring you to this page. You would hit enter to bring it into your tables, and I already put the table into L1, L2. You want to make sure that at the bottom your values match at the same line, or else you probably missed a data point. All right, so first question is, what is the correlation coefficient? So in order to do that, you need to turn on your diagnostic. So you hit second catalog, which will bring you to this page. You go all the way down, and in order to get the correlation coefficient, you need to make sure your diagnostic is on. So where it says diagnostic on, make sure you hit that. All right, I know that I'm dealing with a calculation. So I'm gonna go on my calculator, back to stat, and then where it says calculation, that's always a safe page to go to. Now, I know that it's gonna be a line of best fit, so I'm gonna hit the number 4, which will bring me to this page. Hit enter all the way through, and this is going to be your main page to tell you all the things that you need to know. So, correlation coefficient, that is your R value, and you can see that your R value, the bottom line right here, is going to be 0.998. Now, correlation coefficient is on a scale of negative 1.0 to positive 1.0. Negative 1 being very strong negative, and positive 1 being very strong positive. I'm sorry, this number right here is negative, so that's important, don't forget that. So what does this correlation coefficient tell you? And since it is negative, first of all, you can say it's a negative correlation, and because 0.998 is so extremely close to negative 1, you can say it is a negative strong, or a strong negative correlation. Next one, line of best fit. So using my data points right here, I have A and B using the formula y equals mx plus b, where A is the same thing as m. I have y equals, my slope is going to be negative 0.85. After m, I put x, and then my b value is plus 96.95. That should be your line of best fit. Okay, what is the meaning of slope? Okay, so our slope is going to be this value, negative 0.85. So if I know that slope is rise over run, my rise is going to be my y value. So let's frame that as college, percent of kids going to college. And then my run is going to be x, so that's going to be poverty. We can put this over 1. So what is the meaning of slope? So if my poverty increases by 1, so every increase of poverty by 1%, which I have right here, how is college attendance going to go down? Well, you know it's going to go down because it's negative. So every increase of poverty by 1%, college attendance goes down because it's negative by what percent? By 0.85%. So 0.85%, and that's the meaning of slope. Y-intercept, we know that the y-intercept is going to be this number, 96.95. So where is the y-intercept? Well, the y-intercept occurs when x equals 0. So it's basically asking if the percentage of students in poverty is 0, what would the percent of students attending a four-year college be? So this is the one that we're solving for. So, I mean, that's basically it. The meaning of the y-intercept is that when poverty is 0%, then college attendance is what percent? 96.95. So rich schools send more kids to college is basically the conclusion. All right, next. School A has 200 seniors this year, 50 of them live in poverty. Based on the model, how many seniors would you predict are going to college? So you need to figure out what percentage of them are in poverty. So if that is 50 over 200, what percentage is that? You can do this, 50 divided by 200, which is 0.25. So it's not going to be 0.25 though. Oh, okay. So it is 0.25. But when I put it in this chart right here, percentage of students in poverty, these are not in decimal notation. So if I were to take this 0.25, I won't put it in as 0.25 here. I'd put it in as a whole number of 25. So it's asking us, based on this model, and this is 25, how many students would be going to college? So I already have a line of best fit, which is y equals negative 0.85x plus 96.5. What I'm going to do now is just plug in the x value. So y equals negative 0.85. Remember, we're not putting in 0.25. We're putting in whole number 25. So let's do that. And then my y-intercept is plus 96.95. I'm going to plug that into my calculator. Negative 0.85 times 25 plus 96.95, and that's going to give me 75.7. That's in percentage. So if 25% of them live below the poverty line, then around 75.7% of them are going to go to college. Okay, so for this one, using the data, what would be the best guess or the percent of kids living in poverty for a school that has 80% of students go to a four-year college? So the important number here is 80. If we go back to our chart, does 80 go in X or Y? Well, we know it's 80% of students go to a four-year college. Four-year college is my Y value. So going down, we know Y and we're looking for X. So using the equation that we came up with in question 18, that is what we're going to do. So the equation is y equals negative 0.85x plus 96.95. We're going to plug in 80 for our y value. We're going to solve it like this. So to get x by itself, we're going to subtract 96.95 from both sides. What is this going to equal? Let's do 80 minus 96.95. That's going to give me negative 16.95. So negative 16.95 equals, and then on this side, these cancel out, leaving negative 0.85x. My final step is to divide by negative 0.85. These cancel out. That's leaving x. And then on my calculator, let's do this divided by negative 0.85. So I have 19.94. So what does that mean? That means if a school is sending 80% of students to a four-year college, only 19.9% of students are living in poverty. Next one. Did the school over or underperform its projection, and by how much? Oh, sorry, did the first school. So let's look at school number one. So this is 4061. What this is asking is that based on this line, so let's say it's based on this line, whatever dot this is, let's say it is up here. If it's going to be up here, then we know it's above the line. That's going to be an overperform. But if it is below the line, it's going to be an underperform. So how do we figure out the distance from the line to the point? Well, that is called the residual. So I already actually have it in my calculator. So I'm going to go back to my list. That is L1, L2. Now I can find the residual in L3 by just inserting it. So to insert into L3, you're going to hit second, and then you're going to hit list. So list, you're going to see the options here. You want 7 for residual, so please hit 7. It's going to pop up residual, hit enter, and then all your residuals will pop up. So these numbers give how far away it is from the line of best fit. If it is a positive number, like number 1 is positive, number 2 is positive, number 5 is positive, it's going to be over. And if it's a negative, it's going to be under. So school number 1. Did the first school under or overperform? So school number 1 is right here, 4064. Well, it's a positive, and the residual is positive 4.9 or 19. So yeah, it did overperform because this is positive. So you're going to put overperform. And then by how much? Well, it overperformed by this much, positive 4.19. Now, the researcher decides to take out the biggest outlier. Outlier, if we go back to our graph, is going to be the point that is the farthest from this line. So on this graph, for example, an outlier would be all the way up here because it strays from the line, or maybe all the way down here because it strays from the line. Now, outliers are going to have the largest residuals because they're going to be the furthest from the line of best fit. So to figure out what the outlier is, you're going to go based on your residual, so what I have right here, and figure out what number is the biggest. So I have 4.2, and then a decimal, 1.8, 1.9, 0.17, 0.5, 0.85, we'll keep on going, negative 1.4, 0.44, and that's it. So obviously there's one number that is the clear biggest, and that's the first one, that 4.1. So which is the biggest outlier? If you decide to take it out, you would decide to remove school number 1. Okay, so this one's easily done on the calculator. So you want to find the mean, median, and standard deviation. The easiest way to do it on the calculator is to hit stat, enter, and that's going to bring you to this list. And all you're going to do is plug in your values all in the same column. So 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and 18. It can be in whatever order you want. So once I do that, to find all of these super easily, the mean, median, and the standard deviation, I'm going to hit stat, and then I go over to calc because it's a calculation. And since I only put it into one column, one variable stats is what I'm going to hit. Enter, 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 and this has everything I need to know. Now, there are only two symbols that you need to remember. X with the bar on top is going to be the mean. So if we're going to say divide this up, so I know he's going to have like an old value and a new value. So for the original 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 values, his mean is going to be X with a bar on top. So the mean is 13. For the median, I go down, and where it says MED, that's going to be 13. The median is 13. And then for standard deviation, you just have to remember that it's this symbol right here, sigma X. So that's going to be standard deviation of 3.41. Okay, but now he has new values because he catches fire in his 7th game and scores 44 points. So now instead of having just these 6 basketball games, he adds a 4th game of 44. So what I'm going to do is I have my list. I go back to stat, edit, and now instead of just putting all these values, I'm going to add 44, which you can tell is really, really different from the other numbers that he scored in his 6 prior games. I go back to stat, I go back to calc, and I go back to 1. I hit these, and now all my numbers have changed, so I just want to compare them. My new mean is the X with the bar on top, so that's 17.4. If I go down to my median, my new median right here is going to be 14. And then if I go down to my standard notation, sigma X, SD is going to be 11.3. So it's basically just asking you, how do these compare? So describe what happens. So the mean goes up by plus 4.4. The median goes up by plus 1. And the standard deviation goes up by, let's see, 11.3 minus 3.41 goes up by 7.89. So all of these, the mean, the median, and the standard deviation go up because he scored such an outstanding number of points in his 7th basketball game. All right, to find the mean, all I'm going to do is find the average, which means I'm going to add up all the points that I have and divide it by the number there are. So there is 130 point, there is 131 point, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 32 points, there are 2 33 points, 134 point, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 35 points. So I have 130, 131, 4 32s, I have 2 33s, oops, these should be 3s, 2 33s. I have 134, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 35. So I just found my average. by having that. That's going to be 464, but I'm not done. I have to divide it by how many dots there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I'm going to divide that by 14. So I'll do 464 divided by 14, and I get 33.14 as my mean. Okay, so you could do this on the calculator, but I actually prefer to do this by hand. So I need to find the y-intercept, which I know is the b value. So my b value here, slope always goes with x, so this is mx. This is going to be your b value. So for function 1, b equals positive 4. To find the y-intercept from a table, I need to write the equation of the line, which means I need to find the difference. 10 to 13 is plus 3, 13 to 16 is plus 3, 3 to 4 is plus 1, 4 to 5 is plus 1. I know that slope is rise over run, so this is going to be my rise because it goes up and down. X is my run because it goes side to side. So if I have 3 over 1, I know that my slope is 3. So I'm going to have that as y equals mx plus 3. Now I can just pick plus b. So now I can just pick one of these that I like. 3, 10 seems like the easiest number to work with. So instead of y, I'm going to put 10. Instead of m, I'm going to put 3. Instead of x, right here, I'm going to put 3. And I'm going to solve for b. When I do that, I bring the 10 down. 3 times 3 is 9, plus b. To get b by itself, I subtract 9 on both sides. These cancel. 10 minus 9 is positive 1. So I have 1 equals b. Now I have to go compare the distance between them. I have b equals 4. I have b equals 1. So when I do that, 4 minus 1 is the difference. The difference is going to be 3. All right, show possible answers for x. That just means I'm solving for x, but this gives it away possible answers, which means that there's probably more than one answer. I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. These cancel. 110 minus 10 is 100. I bring down my 4x squared. To get x by itself, I'm going to start by dividing by 4. These cancel, leaving x squared, and 100 divided by 4 is 25. To undo the square to get the x by itself, the opposite of a square is a square root, which I do to both sides. This square and this square root cancel, which is the purpose, leaving x, and the square root of 25 we know is 5, but possible answers, we know that the square root of 25 is positive and negative 5. Okay, the equation of the line that is perpendicular to this line passing through the point 4, 10. So this, first of all, is in standard form. We don't like that. We got to make it into y equals mx plus b. To do that, we need to solve for this guy right here, y. So let's start with 2x plus 4y equals 8. I want to solve it in terms of this, y. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. These cancel. I bring down 4x. On this side, I have negative 2x plus 8. To get the x by itself, I'm going to divide each term by 4. Let's see what this equals. These cancel, leaving x. Negative 4 divided by 4 simplifies to negative 1/2 x, and then 8 divided by 4 is plus 2. So now I'm good. I have this equation for this line. Okay, the line is perpendicular to this and passes through the points 4, 10. So I know perpendicular means the negative reciprocal. So the negative reciprocal of this. So to get the negative reciprocal of negative 1/2, I gotta make it into the opposite sign and then flip the numbers. So my new formula would begin with, I'm sorry, this should be a y. The new formula should be beginning with y equals the negative reciprocal of this, which is positive, and I flip the numbers, 2 over 1, x plus b, which I'm solving for. Now I can simplify this to 2 and plug in the points that they gave us. So our y value is 10. This simplifies down to 2. My x value is 4, and I'm still solving for b. So when I do that, 2 times 4 is 8. I bring down the 10. I bring down the plus b. To get b by itself, I subtract 8 on both sides. These cancel, leaving b, and then 10 minus 8 is 2. Now, to find the equation of the line, I have everything that I need. I have my negative reciprocal right here. So my M value is 2, and then my B value is 2. So my final answer for my perpendicular line is y equals 2x, and then my y-intercept of 2 should be your final answer. Okay, so I have line A and line B. Let's begin with line A. Line A goes through 2 points, 4, 2, and 7, 8. So let's set up an XY table. I have 4, 2, and then I have 7, 8. To figure out what the slope of this is, I'm going to do plus 6. On this side, I'm going to do plus 3. So my slope is going to be rise over run. My slope is going to be 6 over 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. To find my y-intercept, I'm going to take 2 points. I like these ones and plug them in. I'll do y equals mx plus dv. My y value is 2. My slope is 2. My x value is 4, and I'm solving for b. So when I have this, 2 times 4 is 8, plus b. To get my b value, I subtract 8 from both sides. These cancel. 2 minus 8 is negative 6, which equals b. So line A has the equation y equals the value of 2, x, and then my y-intercept of negative b. So this is line A. But what it's asking for is line B. And what it gives us is line B is parallel. Parallel means the same slope, so I can actually just begin with that. Line B. So I begin with y equals my parallel slope, 2x, and then already tells us has a y-intercept of 10. So I'm just going to add a plus 10, and that is your final answer. Line B is y equals 2x plus 10. Okay, your giveaway here for what kind of function this is, a return of 14%. Exponential, you need to know that. So exponential is y equals a b to the power of x. A is going to be our principal. So what did Maribel start with? She begins with 200, so my a value is going to be 200. B is how much she's increasing by or decreasing by in terms of a percentage. So I know it's 14%. It has an average rate of return. So what does return mean? Does that mean increase or decrease? Return means increase. So I know it's going to be 0.14 because it's 14%. And I also know because it's increase, I'm going to put a 1 here because it's actually 114%. All that's left is to put in x value here. So this x value here, what would go here is time. So if they're going from 2018 to 2050, I just need to figure out how much time has passed. So I can do 2050 minus 2018. So 32 years have passed. For my exponent, I'm going to put 32, and it's as simple as plugging in my equation. So 200 times 1.14 to the power of 32. My answer is going to be that by 2050, her annual return in rates for her investment in Apple is going to be $13,242.97. Okay, so I'm comparing two stores, so I always like to make a table. This one's going to be the first store, and this one's going to be the second store. Store 1 charges $12.50 per month, plus a membership fee of $1.5 per movie rented. Okay, so we're comparing per movie. So this one's going to go with the variable because this is per month. So it's going to be $12.50 and then plus $150x, the x being the movies. For the second store, it's going to be $3.50 per movie. So it's going to be 3.5 times x. Let's set them equal to each other. To solve for this, I'm going to move the x to one side. So minus 1.5, minus 1.5. These cancel, bringing down the 12.5. And then 3.5 minus 1.5 is 2x. To get x by itself, I divide by 2. And then I have x equals 6.25. Now, the question is, what is the minimum number of movies a person needs to rent in a month for the first store to be a better deal? So we want it to be a better deal. This would change it to an inequality. Well, they can't rent 6.25 movies, so you need to either round up or down. You would round up, making it 7 movies to be the better cost. Now there's another way to do this too, and I just want to show you real quick. On the calculator, you can put in y equals both equations. So I had 12.5 plus 1.5x, I put that in here, and then 3.5x, I put that in y2. I can hit second graph to get to the table, and it shows me all of my values. So right here for 0 movies, this is $12.50, this is $0. 1 movie, 2 movies, 3 movies, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So at what point does this one become more expensive than this one, or cheaper than this one? You can see Y2 is cheaper for all of these movies until it hits this point right here. At movie number 7, Y1 is only 23, Y2 is 24.5. So at movie number 7, the first store is the better deal. Okay, for this one, I'm also comparing 2 different things. One is the first part of the book, one is the second part. So part 1, part 2. Okay, so we know that the book is 1,200 pages long. So if I add part 1 and part 2, it's going to be 1,200. The first part of the book is 50 pages longer than the second part. So I'm going to have 50 plus x. And if it's 50 pages more than the second book, or second part, then the x is the second part. When I add these together, I'll have 50 plus x, which is 2x equals 1,200. When I solve for this, minus 50 on both sides. These cancel, I bring down my 2x, and this equals 1,200 minus 50 is 1150 divided by 2 on both sides. The second part, x equals 575. So if I go back, part 2 is going to be 575. So I answered the question, how long is the second part? If I wanted to go back, I could do 575 plus 50. The second part of the book is going to be 625, but this is the answer. Okay, so this is a sequence problem. So A of n is a sequence problem where n is the number of the term. Okay, so it's asking for the third term and the fourth term. So this formula really here should be a of n equals 4n plus 8. There's a typo and it said x instead. It should really be n. What it's asking is for the third term. So a of 3 and the fourth term, which is a of 4. So all I do is plug n with the numbers. So if I have the formula 4n plus 8, I'm going to be doing 4, and then instead of n, I'm going to do 3 plus 8. So a of 3 is going to be 20. Right next to it, a of 4, so I'm going to do 4 times my n value, which is 4 plus 8, and I get 24. So I have a of 3 is 20, a of 4 is 24. The question asks, what is the product of the third and fourth term? So product means multiplication. I'm going to do 20 times 24. This is calculator active, so I'm just going to do 20 times 24. That gives me 480. So my final answer is going to be 480. Okay, so the giveaway here is that it depreciates 9%, so we know that is an exponential function. Ashley owns a car that is worth $4,000. So I begin with my formula, y equals a, b to the power of x. A is my principal, that is $4,000. Drop down my y. B is how much it's increasing or decreasing by as a percentage. So depreciates by 9%. If we start with 100% and it's depreciating, it's going down by 9%. I'm left with 91%. So right next to it, I put 0.91 for 90% or 91%, and then I add t for my amount of years as the exponent. So write an equation. This right here would be the equation. Okay, so the key here is that it's parallel. Parallel means that the slope, which is m, which is 5 in this scenario, is still the same, so it's 5. So I know that my parallel line is still going to have a slope of 5, but it goes through these points 2, 9. So my x value is 2, my y value is 9. I'm going to plug in y for y equals mx plus b, 9 equals m, which is 5, x, which is 2, and I do not know my b value yet, so I'm going to solve for that. When I do this, 5 times 2 is 10. Plus b, drop down the 9. To solve for b, I subtract 10 from both sides. These cancel. 9 minus 10 is -1, which equals b. So for my parallel line, my slope is the same, which is 5. My b value is -1. My final equation is going to be y equals 5x minus 1. To find the y-intercept, you're going to see if this is linear, first of all, by doing this. You can do it two ways. I like to do it by hand. -17 to 7 is +24. Right here is +6. On this side, -3 to 5 is +8, +2, and then +2. To find my m value, I do rise over run. So I'm going to do my rise, which is my y value, over my run, which is my x value. So I can do 24 over 8 or 6 over 2. Either way, I know my m value, when I simplify all of these down, is going to be 3. So to find my missing value here, I know I still need b. I can write my equation y equals mx plus b, but instead of y, I can choose one of these. I think this one would be the easiest ordered pair to deal with. My y value here is 7. For my m value, I knew it was 3. My x value here is 5, and I'm solving for b. When I do that, 3 times 5 is 15 plus b. Drop down to 7. I subtract 15 from both sides. These cancel, and then my b value when I do 7 minus 15 is -8. So my final equation should be y equals 3x minus 8, but they're actually just asking for the y-intercept, so that would just be -8. Okay, so the key here is I'm looking for an average. If he runs 5 miles here, this would be adding up all of them, 10 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10. If I was to find the average for just these 5 races that he ran, I would divide this by 5. But he's looking to add a 6th mile, so I'm actually going to divide this by 6, which means that there needs to be 6 times in the numerator. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the 5 ones that he's run already. I do not know what his time is for the 6th mile, so I'm going to do plus x. Now, when I average all of these out, it's supposed to equal 9 minutes per mile. So this is going to equal 9. Now all I have to do is reverse solve. So 10 plus 8 plus 9 plus 8 plus 10. Sorry if I messed it up. 10 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10. That simplifies down to 44. So this is 44 plus x divided by 6 equals 9. To undo the 6, I multiply both sides by 6. These cancel. 9 times 6 is 54. I drop down my 44 plus x. I subtract 44 from both sides. These cancel, leaving x, and then 54 minus 44 is 10. So to answer how fast does he have to run on his 6th mile, this number right here would be 10 to average out to 9. Perimeter of a triangle. So let's start by drawing the triangle. So the perimeter is 12w plus 10. I'm going to put that off to the side because it's not actually in the triangle yet. One side is 4w minus 2. Another side is 3w plus 5. And the other side we do not know. So perimeter means that we add to get this number. So let's add what I have right now. 4w minus 2 plus 3w plus 5. When I combine these like terms, the w's become 7w, -2 plus 5 becomes plus 3, and I know I need to add it to this third side to equal perimeter of 12w plus 10. So what I need to figure out is 7w plus what will equal 5w, or 7w plus what will equal 12w. We know that's going to be 5w. And then 3 plus what is going to give me 10. That's going to be 7. So my missing third side for the triangle is going to be 5w plus 7. So the two functions are shown below, and then they intersect. Intersect, if we think about a systems of equation, is when two of the lines cross. We know at this point they need to be equivalent or equal. So should be 1t equivalent. So when I have this, I'm going to set f of x equal to g of x, which translates as 3x plus 10 equals 4x plus 7. I'm going to solve by moving all the x's to one side, subtract 3x from both sides. These cancel. 4x minus 3x is 1x, and then I can also subtract 7 from the 10. These cancel, leaving 7 subtracted from 10, which is 3. X equals 3. But I'm not done yet because I wanted to figure out, oh, no, I am done because it's just asking for the value of x. If I wanted to find the ordered pair, I could pick one of these equations, such as the first one, 3x plus 10, plug in the x value. So 3 times 3 plus 10, which equals 9 plus 10, which equals 19. I could find the final order pair, which would be x as 3 and then y as 19 as the point of intersection. Okay, so this is function notation. If the g of -2, if the value was inside the parentheses, that means that it equals the x value. So x equals -2 is basically what it's trying to say. All I need to do is take the equation that it gives us. So g of -2 will equal, and I just plug in -2 for x, 4.7 times -2 minus 12. This is calculator active, so this is what I'm going to do. 4.7 times -2 minus 12, that gives me -21.4. So -21.4 is your final answer. Okay, so the easiest thing to do for this problem is to actually just plot the point. So I have graph paper right here, and I already drew my xy axis. Let's begin with 2 positive 1. I'm going to go to 1 and then go to 2 right here. So that's 1, 2. Next one is 5, 0. That'd be right here at 5, 0. Next one is 2, -6, so positive 2. And then I go all the way down right here to -6. My last one is -2, -4. So I go -2, -4 right here. Okay, once I have this, I know that this is a rectangle. So let's just connect my points. If you have a shape that's not a rectangle, then you might have something that is incorrect. Okay, right here, what is the area of the rectangle? So when I have something that looks like this, I need to find the length and the width because I know area of a rectangle equals length times width. So to do that, let's deal with this right here. I know that this forms a right triangle, right? So what is my A value, what is my B value, and then I'm solving for my C value. My A, I just count 1, 2. My B, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then my C, I use Pythagorean theorem. So I can do A squared plus B squared equals C squared. I square root, and then my C value is 4.47. That's going to be really important. When I have this side solved, then I also have this side solved. I need to solve these two sides. So again, I see that, let's do this side. This forms a right triangle as well. I have A, I have B, and I do not know C. I can just count what A is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so my A value is 6. My B value is 1, 2, 3. And I do not know what C is, but I can figure out using Pythagorean theorem. So A squared, 6 squared, plus B squared, which is 3. Find that, and then I do the square root. 6.7, and I'm going to round this 0 up to 1 because there's an 8 there. So 6.71. And that is for this side. 6.71, which makes this side 6.71. And then this 4.47 up here, I can bring down to the other side of the rectangle, 4.47. Now going back to our area formula, area equals length times width, all I need to do now is take the length, which is 6.71, so I can do 6.71, and I multiply it by the width, which is 4.47. Do this all on the calculator. So 6.71 times 4.47, that's going to give me an area of 29.99. I'm just going to round that to 30. And then my units, because it's area, are going to be units squared. So 30 units squared should be your answer. Okay, so this problem can literally all be done on Desmos. So I'm gonna go back and forth between Desmos and the paper. So they give you this function. We already know that this is going to be a quadratic just because of how it's set up. And also it talks about the rocket being launched. And we know that automatically that's going to be a quadratic function. So what is the maximum height of the rocket? Please do not forget this. X equals negative b over 2a is going to give you your maximum or your minimum, which is your vertex. So negative b. My b value is right here. B equals 240. So negative b is going to be negative 240. I'm going to divide that by 2a, and I need to put 2a in parentheses. My a value here is negative 8.7. So 2 times negative 8.7. I'm going to have my answer. So x equals 13.79. But it's saying, what is the maximum height? I know if I graph this that my x is going to be time and my y is going to be height. So I actually need to know what my y value is. To do that, I'm going to use the equation that they gave us, and I'm going to plug in x as 13.79. So I begin with negative 8.7 times 13.79 to the power of 2 plus 240, and then I do times x again, which is 13.79, plus my c value here, which is 14. What I get there is 1669.17. So my y value is 1669.17. Which one of these is height? This is height, which is in feet, I guess, and then this one's going to be in seconds. All right, moving on. Actually, also, if you wanted to do this on Desmos, I already have my formula put in here in Desmos. And if you have something that looks like this, you can tell it only looks like one line. But if you zoom out, you can see that it begins to form a quadratic formula. So it's a parabola, a really skinny one, but parabola nonetheless. If I want to go to my vertex, I just zoom in to where my vertex is, and I can click the point. So does it match what I have? Let's see, I have 13.79, and then I have 13.79. I have 16.69, and I also have 16.69 right there. So I know I did it correctly. All right, next one. How many seconds does it take for the rocket to hit the ground? Well, I know that I got to set this equal to 0. Negative 8.7 t to the power of 2 plus 240 t plus 14. Now, I can't factor this easily, and I don't want you guys to factor this easily. You can just literally do it on Desmos. So if I zoom out, and I want to go to the zeros, let's go all the way down to where x equals 0. All right, so I have 2 points right here. Obviously, it's not going to be this one because this is not where it hits the ground. It's where it's starting off. It's going to be this 0. So if I just click on it, what is it going to be? 27.6440. So how many seconds, seconds being on the x-axis, did it take for the object to hit the ground? It would be 27.64. So how many seconds did it take for the rocket to hit the ground? 27.64 seconds. Now, next question. What is the height of the rocket after 6 seconds? I have my formula right here. So after 6 seconds, my t value would equal 6. I just take literally the formula that they give us, and I plug in what value? 6. So negative 8.7 times 6 to the power of 2 plus 240 times 6 plus 14. When I do that, I get 1140.8. Let's see, 1140.8, okay? So my height is gonna be 1140.8 feet. And then the last one is, what are 2 synonyms for x-intercepts? And yeah, what are the 2 synonyms for x-intercepts? Well, if you take a look, just based on the graph, we know that it's right here and right here. So it's when x equals 0. A synonym is going to be zeros. Another one is going to be solutions. And another one, if you're wanting to put a third one, is going to be roots. Okay, so I'm comparing 2 places, Goldenville and Jenningsville. So as always, I like to put a table, Goldenville and Jenningsville. All right, so let's write equations for both of those. Goldenville has a population of 10,000 people and then loses 10% of its population per year. So there you go. It's going to be exponential because there's a percentage. That's y equals a, b to the power of x. A is my principal, that's 10,000. How much is it losing? It's losing, okay? So that's 100% minus 10%, which is 90% what it keeps. So in my parentheses, I'm going to do 0.9, and then every year, that's just going to be to the power of x. Once I have that, I'm going to do Jenningsville. So it begins with how many people? 1,000. That is my principal. It increases. So that's going to be our starting base of 100% plus 50%. That is 150%. In my parentheses, I'm going to put 1.50, and then to the power of x for years. Now, I could solve this by hand, but I could also just solve it on the calculator. Right here, you want to go down to your y equals button. And once you have that, let's plug in the two values. So for y1, let's do Goldenville, 10,000, parentheses, 0.9 to the power of x. Great. All right, and y2, let's do Jenningsville. So 1,000, 1.50 to the power of x. Now, if I want to compare the numbers and the amount of years, I want to look at just kind of the value. So I want to get to table right here. So I'm going to hit second graph. And now I have all the values for different years. So let's begin with 0. At year 0, Goldensville has 10,000 people. Jenningsville has 1,000. At year 1, Goldensville has 9,000. Jenningsville has 1,500. So you get the point. Let's go down and figure out at what point y2, Jenningsville, has a number that's bigger than y1, Goldenville. So it's not 1, it's not 2, it's not 3. At number 4, they're getting closer, but y1 is still bigger. And then once we get to x equals 5, so 5 years, once we get to that number, you can see that that is the point where Jenningsville has a number, 7593.8, which is bigger than Goldensville, which is 5904.9. So what is the number of years? It is going to be 5. Your final answer is that it will take 5 years for the population of Jenningsville to have, 5 years for Jenningsville to have a greater population than Goldenville. Okay, so I know this is going to be a system of equations problem. I'm going to begin with high school A and high school B. Let's begin with doing an equation for high school A. So high school A rented and filled 8 vans and 8 buses with 240 students. So the equation for that would be 8 vans, so 8 times V, plus 8 buses, 8 times B equals 240 students. So 8 vans and 8 buses to fill 240 students. The equation for high school B, 4 vans and 1 bus for 54 students. So 4V plus 1B equals 54. Now I have 2 equations with 2 variables. I can use either substitution or elimination to figure this out. Well, actually, these are all lined up, so let's just do elimination. So what can I multiply the bottom one by to cancel out the V's? Well, 4 times -2 is going to be -8. -8 will cancel out with +8. You can also do this by substitution, but let's just do elimination for now. So I distribute this -2 to all of these numbers. This becomes -8V minus 2B. And then -2 times 54 is -108. And let's continue to solve. I drop down my original equation from A. 8V plus 8B equals 240. And now I'm going to add these up together. I know this works because I can eliminate these two, leaving only B. -2 plus 8 is +6B. And then -108. Let's just do this on my calculator. So -108 plus 240 is going to give me 130. And then I divide each side by 6. So I'll do 130 divided by 6. So 132 divided by 6, that's going to give me 22. So B equals 22. My final step to just get the value of V is I can pick the equation. I can pick the easier one. I think this one's actually the easier one. So I'm going to plug in, instead of B, I'm going to plug in 22. So I'll do 4 V plus 1 parentheses 22 equals 54. And now I just need to solve. Let's do that real quick. So this is 22 equals 54. I bring down my 4V. I can subtract 22 from both sides. When I do that, these cancel out. 54 minus 22 is 32. I bring down my 4V, divide each side by 4, and then 32 divided by 4, my V value is going to be 8. So my final answer is that buses can hold 22 students and vans can hold 8 students. Okay, since I did the last one by elimination, let's just do this one by substitution so you can see both ways. I already set up my equation for math. 3 small boxes and 14 large boxes will give me a total of 203. And then Ming's is 11 small, 11 large will give me a total of 220. So let's make one of these, let's solve in terms of S, let's say for Ming. So if I want to isolate this variable, I would do minus 11L on both sides. These would cancel, leaving 11S equals 220 minus 11L. To get the S by itself, I would divide each term by 11, and this works out nice and clean. These 11s would cancel out, leaving S equals 220 divided by 11 is 20, and then these 11s cancel out, equals a minus L. All right, so if S equals 20 minus L, I can take Matt's equation, and instead I can take out this S and put in this value of 20 minus L. So I set up that equation. This is what it would look like for Matt. 3, and then instead of putting S, I'll put 20 minus L. And then I'll drag down my plus 14L and equals 203. When I solve for that, when I distribute this 3 over, it becomes 60 minus 3L plus 14L equals 203. I can combine these terms, so bring down my 60. All right, so when I do that, I can bring down my 60. I'm going to combine these terms, negative 3L plus 14L. Negative 3 plus 14 is positive 11L. I bring down my 203, subtract 60 from both sides. Those cancel. I bring down 11L. 203 minus 60 is 143. My last step is to divide by 11 on both sides. These cancel, leaving L, and then 143 divided by 11 is going to be 13. All right, so now once I have this, I need to figure out what the S value is going to be. So let's just use this equation. So I know that my L value right here is going to be 13. Let's plug this in. So I'll do 3S plus 14, and instead of L, I'm going to put this value, 13, equals 203. When I solve that, I can do 13 times 14, and let's see. 13 times 14 is 182. So 182 here, 203 on this side, and I bring down my 3S. To get the S by itself, I'm going to subtract 182 from both sides. These cancel, leaving 3S equals 203 minus 182. So 21. Sorry, it's getting super cramped in here. And then my final step, divide by 3 to get S by itself. So these cancel out here, leaving S, and then 21 divided by 3 gives me 7. So my final answer should be S for the small boxes is $7, and large L for the large boxes will be $13.